Greetings, this is Doc Ock coming to you live and direct from Black Facts Headquarters Central this evening here in the lovely Kent, Ohio. We would just like to greet you with words of peace, tranquility, and of course, that ever-present justice. And tonight, we're going to be presenting an entire piece on the victory of Adwa. One more reason to be a proud Ethiopian, because Ethiopia is the only African country known to have defeated a European country in battle with against a modern army. You had shoeless, undernourished Ethiopians fighting against the Italians with their modern weapons, their guns, and other armaments, etc. But what they did not expect from the Ethiopians is an army of 300,000 mad Ethiopians. You don't want to go up against a force like that, because even the women will come out to fight you. As Itege Taitu Batul said, I am a woman, but I'm not going to stand for this invasion of our country under the articles of peace that have been signed between the Ethiopians and the Italians. Menelik II, the Lion of Adwa, fought valiantly, leading his troops into battle. Now, you have to keep in mind that the Ethiopian forces were not a modern army. They were not a standing army. This was an army of individuals who came together under the under the green, gold, and red, the Ites gold and green flag of Ethiopia, to do battle as one empire under their emperor and their empress, Empress Taitu, who, when she married into the royal family of Menelik, she brought with her her own army of 30,000 Ethiopian warriors. And as I said, we're not talking about regular armies. We're not talking about an army that you have to feed, clothe, etc., every day of the year. We're talking about those people who were pledged to her, because Ethiopia was decidedly a feudal nation. And so you are pledged to defend your superior, and your superior is pledged to defend his superior, and on up the line. That's how they put together their army. So when Menelik put out the call, he had the kings of Ethiopia each come with their own force of men and women and children to do battle with the Italians. And this is what the Italians did not expect. It's this very same thing that happened to the U.S. in Vietnam. They were also fighting against some shoeless, undernourished Cambodians, but they did not expect that they would lose with all of their napalm and bombs from the sky and airplanes and armored troop carriers, etc. Again, as Emperor Taitu said, I am a woman and I do not love war, but I'd rather go to war than to fall prey to the Italians under this, what was it, article, looks like Article 17. I couldn't catch the number right there as it flashed by. But simply enough, the Ethiopians did battle. Now, this battle was so significant, it was such a significant defeat to a European army, that the old proverb that had lasted for time immemorial, from the time of the Greeks saw the Ethiopians and only had one thing to say about them: Ethiop, meaning black. That was the only thing they had to say about the Ethiopians, is that they were black. It was their most distinctive feature. And again, as some of the old proverbs said, A leopard cannot change its spots, and an Ethiopian cannot change his color. But if you were to go to battle against a European nation and beat them decisively in battle to the point where they had to pay reparations to the Ethiopians, all bets are off. And in fact, the Italians not only had to pay the reparations, but the Ethiopians' color changed. Their color didn't change, but their racial designation changed from being Africans, black people, Negroes, to being dark-skinned Caucasians. So if you can imagine, one day you're black as shoe leather and you're known as a Negro, and the next day after you defeated your enemy, you're now known as a dark-skinned Caucasian. What's the difference between day one and day two? It has nothing to do with your physiognomy, the way you look. It doesn't have anything to do with your slender nose. It doesn't have anything to do with your kinky hair or your lack of kinks. It had to do strictly with the fact that they had beaten the Italians in battle. Decisive defeat by the Ethiopians. So this was a game changer. The battle happened in 1896. It was the Battle of Adwa, March 2nd, 1896. That's a day you need to mark down on your calendar, so the next day you will be able to celebrate Adwa, or Victory Day, with Ethiopians all over the planet Earth, because we celebrate that day every single year, still hearkening back to that day, because it was a grand day, and it raised the spirits of Africans all over the planet when they heard the news of the defeat of the Italians by the Ethiopians. So as I said, very, very, very significant battle. Nothing like it had ever happened before, and not even since. But that is not to say that it won't happen in the future. So, something to keep in mind as you look at a picture of Empress Taitu with her gun, and there you see Emperor Menelik. Yeah, these battles were fought, and the emperor and the empress did not just sit on the side and tell their people to go off and do battle. They took to the field of battle themselves, putting themselves in the midst of mortal danger. That's right. This is how we fight in Ethiopia, because we know that it is an honor to die in battle against an enemy. It's an honor. And so when the Ethiopians would be shot, they would merely flick the wound and say, "What is this flea?" As if they had just gotten bit by a bug. And they would carry on. They would continue to come right at you as if they were on PCP, methamphetamines. And when actually they probably, more than likely, were chewing that cot. They probably were chewing that cot. Now cot has become something that's so popular, even the coffee growers in Ethiopia, since they can't make money on coffee, they decided to go into business to sell cot, because it's become so popular in Ethiopia. And that may be what gave them that extra strength. I don't know if that was it or not. It's mere speculation on my part. But at any rate, what we do know is that the Italians had to leave, and they didn't come back for another 40 years before they returned to Ethiopia to try one more time to take Ethiopia by force. And they almost did it the second time, but again, they lost. They lost the battle twice against the Ethiopians. So Ethiopia has a rich history, and all of this month, we're going to be detailing the history of Ethiopia, reading stories, Ethiopian tales. We're going to be going deep, deep, deep into the history of Ethiopia, because most of us don't know the history of Ethiopia. So we're just going to put it out there for you. And if you do know the history of Ethiopia and you have some comments, please feel free. Post up your comments. We'd really appreciate it. In the meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and end this session. This is Doc Ock signing off. We'll be back tomorrow with another tale from Ethiopia.